Hey friends, it is Rev Sheree here with the amazing podcast. We have The Rewind, the CUT Collective podcast that comes straight out of Christ Universal Temple. I'm so excited to be here today as we are going to unpack the lesson sermon from March 15th, 2026. It is episode 8 of our season 3 of the Collective's podcast, The Rewind. Can you believe it's been 3 seasons? This is the 3rd season of The Rewind. I'm so excited to have been building this momentum as we are here intentionally in creating a space for us to connect online. So the online community, the CUT Collective, is where we can all get together wherever we are in the world to stay tapped in and connected to the teachings from Christ Universal Temple. What we do on The Rewind is we look back on lesson sermons, on workshops, on material that's been presented and unpack it. Maybe you couldn't ask the question. Maybe you weren't there. We get a chance to do it here on The Rewind each and every week. This week in the hot seat is the hardcore metaphysician, the Reverend Gaylon McDowell. I'm so excited to have him. I'm going to bring him on in just a minute. But if you're tuning into us, if you're here with us live, I want to encourage you to go ahead and subscribe, like, share, all those fun things you do to let people know, hey, something cool's on. I want you to listen to it. And we're going to have a good time together. I want to welcome you and invite you to ask a question in the chat. I pulled these clips. They are for you. And to help us unpack, get a deeper meaning into the lesson, and also to have the minister to give us a little bit more insight. Was there something that he left on the table, something he wished he could have said? And so we were just talking before we went live, and so Rev told me that there was a little bit of the sermon that got cut off because of a power surge in the city. So maybe we'll get to know what we missed, because I wasn't in the building. I didn't get that little bit. So let's see what happens. Let's see if he'll give us that little treat. But without further ado, I want to bring Rev on into the scene. What's going on, Reverend McDowell? How are you?
Doing well, Reverend Sheree. It's good to be here.
Listen, I feel like it's been a long time. We kicked off the year together with The Rewind. Mm-hmm. And we're here. We get to come together again. I'm grateful for that. Grateful
to be here and grateful to be able to share our better living message with the world.
So we're in the Lenten season, right? And for those who aren't familiar with Lent, it's the 40-day period, really 46 days between Ash Wednesday and Easter. And It's a time that we have, you name things what you want them to be. And so it's a church tradition, but we've named it a season of eliminating negative thinking. Let's eliminate negative thinking. And so we use it as a consciousness building experience. I call it, in my Lenten experiences, I call it a spiritual immersion experience, where you get to really dig deep and give yourself a time to be wholly dedicated to your spiritual growth. So we're going to have a good time as we uncover the sacred pause, which was your sermon title today. I love that title, The Sacred Pause. So first I want to say that there was some not even technical issues. There was a complete power surge in the city that interrupted the live stream. This is why when you can go to church, you're supposed to go to church. So the power surge don't happen in person. You get to still hear, see, and have a good time. But for those of us who are connected only digitally, I want to know what we missed. So let me start by saying this, because you gave a lot of great information. We're going to talk about what the sacred pause is, but you said I opened it up with something that got cut. Do you remember what that is?
Off the top of my head, because obviously I don't have it in front of me. I basically was trying to create the understanding that people are going through stuff, whether they're dealing with financial issues, they're dealing with, career stuff, they're dealing with health issues or the health issues of their loved ones, concerns about the national, what's happening in the government and things of that nature. People have anxiety, people have stress, people have fear, people are going through stuff. The opening that's actually online caught part of it, but maybe it was a few minutes that it didn't catch. But all I was trying to do was just create some relatability. Sometimes people think that just because they're in church or they're studying a particular teaching, or especially an empowering teaching like ours, means that people not only are not going through stuff, but they're not even worried about stuff. And that's just not true. So what I was trying to help people understand is these things are happening. What is the answer to these things? And for me, that answer was the sacred pause.
Mm-hmm.
That's the gist of it.
But you had talked about, you gave a really interesting term for the cycle that we can be caught into when we are just inundated with all of these impressions of doom and then, you know, whether it's in the world, whether it's in our experience. You called them these mental loops that we get stuck in, called stress loops. Like
I said that.
sometimes
I
you
didn't
hear a
realize
term,
I said that.
you said stress loop. I was like, am I in a stress loop? Like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes I
Yeah.
can't even hear what comes next because it's like a
Yeah.
term will grab your attention. But what are you seeing, like just in terms of this concept of a stress loop? Something you said it.
Okay, now it's coming back in my mind now.
Yeah,
You know, I've
like
been on the computer
what are those
emailing all
things?
day.
Yeah, what are those things putting us in stress loops? Like how would you define that?
So a stress loop, from the perspective of simplifying without making it super deep, is when something is going on in your life, world, and affairs that draws so much of your attention, so much of your emotion, that instead of seeing clearly now, you're not necessarily present to the moment as much as you're stuck in your own story. So it's like I'm living in this paradigm, and this paradigm is only going to give me the feedback of how I've already perceived it, how I've already felt about it. So next thing you know, you're in a stress loop because it's recycling itself. So there's no real original thinking happening.
Yeah.
There's no real original contemplation happening. There is no being present in the moment happening. It's just reaction. It's response. It's not conscious awareness. And because it's not conscious awareness, you can get stuck doing a thing over and over and over again before you realize it. It's like, you know, like some of the business people say, you were like running in the rat race without any awareness. You get stuck in, okay, I'm dealing with a loved one. I'm dealing with this job. I'm dealing with this career. This marriage is going bonkers. My kid is acting stupid. And next thing you know, you're not hearing anything and you're not seeing the other thing and you're not seeing the possibilities. You're not seeing the potentialities. And most importantly, you're not hearing the inner guidance that's available to you because the story is on repeat. It's like a rerun that's consistently playing in the mind over and over again. So if you have your TV station, for instance, on a station that only plays reruns, you get really familiar with the stuff. All right. You get to anticipate the stuff. You don't have to think, how am I supposed to think about this? How am I supposed to feel about this? Because it's just on rerun. It's a rerun. Right. It's just giving you back.
It'll come back around again.
Which you already know. And it's going to come back around again. Okay. And there's a false sense of safety in it being in a loop, because you start to identify with the loop without realizing that the loop is actually a limitation.
Yeah. Yeah, that, you know, there's as you're talking, I'm thinking, this is my story. There's a part there is a loop, and sometimes I think that it's like you can catch yourself in the moment, that you can be in this thought loop that is keeping you in the complaint cycle, keeping you in looking at what's wrong or focused on a problem. And it's so easy to be caught in that mindset. And it's kind of one of the things I really talk about during Lent, which is like how to, in order to have mastery, authority, and dominion over what's going on in your mind, you got to be present to what's going on in your mind. And so, this idea of a stress loop, I'm gonna work with that a little bit more, because it's kind of like the you in a groove, right? I think that's how Reverend Dell used to talk about it. Like, you got the record that's just in a groove, and if you ever had a record and a record player, and there's a scratch on the album, right, and it just keeps going into that same one over and over again, that's what it could feel like. I need a new groove, right? Because I'm getting stuck in the same place over and over again. And so you gave us I always call it building a case for why should I adhere to a discipline like Lent, right? I'm going to play this clip first and we'll unpack it.
Okay.
The minds are like a rodeo with wild horses that are kicking and bucking while the cowboy is trying to ride them. When your mind has been out of alignment for a very long time, and then you hear Reverend Wells talking about let's eliminate negative thinking, Your mind is like, no, we're going to kick and we're going to buck against that thought. This is the symbolism, but we're not there yet, of Jesus riding the donkey into Jerusalem. The donkey is a stubborn animal. And our minds can be stubborn, and we don't want to necessarily have anyone in control of it. So when you try to take back your mind, I want you to get this. When you try to take back your mind, the uncontrolled and unregulated mind will fight back.
So here we go, right? That in your mind, there is a war going on. We talk about the wars in the world, but what are the wars going on in your mind? And so I think that this, I think what you help us to do is to recognize that something new is going to hit up against your old, and it could be a battle. It could be a battle.
Yes.
And you mentioned this unregulated mind, though. I want you to talk to me a little bit about that part.
Unregulated.
That's what's fighting me.
Yeah, that's the aspect. Depending on how much of your conscious awareness of your consciousness is unregulated. And what I mean unregulated, meaning it's not under your real conscious control. In other words, your mind takes you where you don't want to go. I consider that an unregulated mind. And you're thinking anything, you're feeling anything, you're believing anything, and you're creating the experiences and the actions that are consistent with that unregulated mind. So when anything is unregulated, when you seek to regulate it, it's going to resist. You know, I was talking to my stepdaughter the other day about her dog. And sometimes when I will, see the dog and I'll take the dog out for a walk, I'll walk the dog so far, stop, go the other way, stop, go the other way, stop. Why? Because the dog is very unregulated. He wants to do his own thing. No, I'm going over here to sniff. I'm running over here. So no, pull his leash back. I'm in charge. Pay attention to where I'm going, because that's what counts. Not where you want to go, where I want to go. You don't determine what. And an unregulated mind goes where you don't want to go.
Yeah.
And I think people just need to recognize that when you start to try to pull your mind back, all of those thoughts and beliefs and feelings that you used to have that are used to just flooding your mind and having you stressed, worried, frustrated, or taking actions that are not for your highest good, when you try to discipline them, you will meet your own mental resistance. This is obviously the metaphysical symbology in the wars of the different people fighting and etc. It's also, the book of Revelation, all of that stuff in consciousness is talking about the righteous, principle-centered, spirit-led thoughts, feelings, and beliefs versus some of these low-level consciousness thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. We have some stuff in us that needs to go.
Yeah.
But it don't always go easily. This is why, you're a person that loves to teach forgiveness. This is why forgiveness can be so hard. Because we want to hold on to the story, which is a part of the loop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because who am I without my loop? Who am I without my story? How do I define it? Who do I blame? What's the reason why I'm not living the way I want to live? So when we ask you to challenge the story and get back in spirit, get back on principle, yes, you will have resistance. When we tell you just because it feels good doesn't mean it's good for you, yes, you will have resistance. Just because you want it does not mean it's for your highest good. Yes, you will meet resistance. When somebody tries to tell you something and you ain't trying to hear it, and they have your best interest in heart, but you just trying to do what you like to do, yes, you will meet resistance internally.
Yeah.
It happens over and over again.
And I think that it's good to know that we talking about a dog, so I've never had a dog before, but I did have a toddler. And when I had my toddler, it was kind of like when those kid leashes were becoming a thing. And parents just judge so much. I mean, everybody's judging. Like, why would you put your kid on a leash? And you're looking at these parents and their kids are just running up against it. It looks horrible until you have a toddler that's all over the place. Then the leash starts to look a little bit more enticing. Like my kid was a runner. he needed a leash if I were trying to go, because that's that undisciplined mind is, I'm gonna go wherever I go. That was the image that popped in there. So I think about disciplining my thinking, like that toddler mind in me will go wherever it looks enticing. I'll just keep running in that direction, as opposed to being the one to say, no, I got the leash on my thoughts. I got the leash on where my mind can go. I'm in control of where my mind can go. And that is important, I think, for us to remember that whatever the loop is, whatever the war is, that at some point you get up and say, wait a minute, I can stop the war. Wait a minute, I can discipline my thinking. Like that's that awakening part, when I can stop it. I can stop the loop. Yes. And the loop can happen at any given time. Or here's the thing, if I'm in a loop, let me be in a pleasant loop. You know, at the very minimum, let me be in a pleasant loop. Let me be caught up into what's good. And then I began to get that directive power again, where I can say, this is where I want my attention to be. I'm not just waiting for something good to come on TV. You know what I mean? I'm not just waiting on a good rerun to come. I can actually direct the programming. Like that's that mastery. I just took 3 of your metaphors and tossed them in the air. All 3. I love it. I love those who are tuned in right now. What we're doing is we're unpacking the lesson sermon from March 15th, 2026. Reverend Gaylon McDowell gave the lesson sermon at Christ Universal Temple. That is the sacred pause. And so where he set us up is just to understand the need to pause. You may not even know that you need to have a pause. Whatever the sacred pause is going to be, we're going to find out in a minute. You might not even know you need to pause. Because there is I remember the grind culture that I was caught up in for so many years, where I measured my value based on how busy I was, where I based my, productivity on how many hours I was grinding through. And, when I exhausted myself from that, right, that was my loop, was, what are you doing? If I wasn't doing something, it was like something was wrong. And that's not healthy. That's not healthy. You talked this idea about the sacred pause helping with this overwhelm, is to me what you were building a case for the word I needed to hear. I'm gonna play this clip, and then we're gonna talk a little bit more about that.
Okay.
How can we gain our balance when we are being inundated with so much information and responsibility? The answer is simple, but it requires work. You must take the sacred pause. The world will always give you something to fear, worry, or get angry about. You will not find your peace in the outer world of highs and lows, good and bad, and pleasant and unpleasant. You can only find your peace within your own spiritual nature by taking the sacred pause. Be still and know that I am God. Sometimes you just got to stop and acknowledge God. Period. Stop and start praising God. Stop and remind yourself that God is in charge. Stop and realize that God is the source of your supply. Stop and realize that God is the lover of your soul. Stop and realize that God is the healer of your body. Stop and realize that God is your employer, even if you own the business.
Some good stuff right there, Rev. You talked about a couple things.
Okay.
So the first thing is that you have to find your peace.
Yes.
And I just that phrase right there. Talk to me about that. Why do you need to find your peace?
Because you weren't designed to be in chaos. So just because some people really, really praise themselves for dealing with high stress situations. I'm not saying that it's not a gift. Both of us are people who really handle stress well. But here's the thing. Finding your peace means that you can be the best version of yourself. Mm-hmm. And those who are connected to you, your loved ones, co-workers, etc., they get the best version of you. More importantly, even the cells of your body will get the best version of you, because when you're at peace, you're regulated. When you're at peace, your body is functioning the way, because we know when we're stressed, when we're angry, when we're anxious, when we're fearful, it does things to the body, because our body's listening to the thoughts and the feelings, the beliefs, and the words we're saying. How we're perceiving life is being actually expressed through ourselves. And as we learn to get into peace, what that also does is it allows us to slow down long enough to hear what spirit is trying to guide us to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And, even something as simple, using an analogy, martial arts stuff. When I used to take this back in the day in the early 90s, I was taking this Taoist martial art. And one of the things that we would do is we would stand in what they would call posts, a particular pose. And the whole reason to stand in this pose, I'm not talking about for like 30 seconds, minutes. Because until you sit and stand in a position properly and align your bones up, you don't realize how your energy is even flowing in your body. People don't realize if you're still enough, you can even feel energy in your body. But your body has to be at peace for that to happen.
Yeah.
Now, what type of energy, spiritual and mental energies and forces are working through your consciousness that you might not be in tune with, just because you haven't slowed down enough, have enough peace in mind to be a open and receptive conduit for spirit to work through. That's the key. Open and receptive conduit. Hopefully that helps.
So, no, that definitely helps. And I think that it's build again. I like to build a case for it, because there are so many defenses in our mind about why we may not have time for it. Why, you said you have to find peace, which means that I'm not waiting for peace, right? That sometimes we're waiting for, and I'm saying we being I, right? Remember that we in this thing together, everybody out there listening, are waiting on something external to happen, then we can be at peace. So when the situation is over, when there's a resolution, then I can say I'm at peace, as opposed to finding my peace no matter what. And it may get uncomfortable, because one of the reasons why I cycle in and out of being a yogi master is because when I take a break, it's like I'm starting all the way back over, because it's the breathing, and it's, you can, when I got strong enough to hold positions long, then I got to pay more attention to my breath. It's so much focus to get to where you can actually begin to feel the stretch and to and really get into that power place. It's a beautiful practice, but you got to practice your way there. And I think that there's my first time seeing someone hold a beautiful position of strength and power and grace, and when I realized how long it took them to how long of a practice it took them to get there, it's like, oh, I get it. This is a building up here. Like I want to be at peace. Yes. And it's natural for me to be at peace, even though I may be unpracticed at it.
Yeah. What's funny about peace is when your mind is at peace and you tell yourself you're at peace, you end up being able to do stuff that we shouldn't be able to do. I remember in the mid 2000s, I had, one of my parlor tricks was, I have a buddy of mine at the time. He's a big guy, like 6'5", 280, and one of my best friends. And I would have him stand on my stomach for 10 seconds. And people were like, you gonna let him stand on your stomach? And they was like, how can you be so calm? But what I was just doing was I was breathing through it. It never hurt because I knew how to breathe. And people would say, well, that doesn't make sense. It makes all the sense in the world. But if my body is like, mine is like, oh my God, your body gets out of alignment, your breathing gets off. Next thing you know, you're hurt. Everything begins in the mind.
Yes.
Everything begins in the mind. That's where we have to go. It's not the situations that are taking our peace. It's our perceptions, it's our beliefs that show up as how we observe and how we are impacted by what happens that take our peace from us. And sometimes I'm not saying that you're never going to lose your peace. What I am saying is you have to take the sacred pause to regain your peace.
Yeah.
to get back in alignment with your power.
Yeah, I think that the most acute example I have of that, just prevalent, is, when I was giving birth to my son, I was blessed to have been exposed to a method of childbirth called the Bradley method. It's basically a partner method, and it's based on meditation and getting into a relaxed state, because the idea is like what you said, that if you have relaxed yourself, then all of the sensation in your body is productively preparing for childbirth.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're kicked into fear, then your fear mechanism has kicked in, which is like, no, it's not safe for the baby to come out, while your body's like, okay, it's time. And so there's a fight going on in your body physically. And so I mastered this birthing process, and I had no sensations in my body when I was having a baby, which is a lie. All right. But what happened for real, though, is that some contractions were horrible. Okay. Because I was frazzled, and it was like, wait a minute, what's going on? And then there was some where I would listen to the meditation. I would be saying the words in my mind about relaxing and getting myself into that space of calm, and they would come like a wave. And maybe I'm freaking out the next one. So it went like that, but to know that it was available. Like, I want us to get to the space where, the pause is available, and it may take you some practice to push pause, to activate that pause, but to know that it's available. Who is this? One of our listeners on YouTube said that overthinking has gotten in the way of peace. This constantly having to think, and that's a habit that we've gotten into. I call it that grind mentality too, that overthinking, getting caught up in worry and concern, trying to figure things out rather than seeking peace, because in peace comes the answer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You said that in your peaceful breathing, you were able to transcend the sensations, the pressure of somebody standing on your stomach. Yeah. In peace, what can you possibly hear that you can't hear when you got a loop of nonsense that's going on in your mind? There's no room for wisdom.
Yeah. Reverend Wilmetta used to always say to me when I was younger, God is not going to shout over your mental noise. It's one of the things that I've always kept from her.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a golden nugget right there. So I'm going to get into what the pause is a little bit in this next clip, because I think we built a case for it. We all are tired of it. You're tired of something. You're over something. You're ready and exhausted with with some habit pattern you have. So why not try peace, right? Let's give peace a try. Here we go. This is on about the sacred pause.
Pause is not stopping. Pausing is waiting for the time to move. When you pause, it isn't permanent. It's taking the time necessary to create spiritual reflection and tune into the wisdom, power, and grace of God so you can go back to life empowered.
So I just had a revelation, y'all. This is Rev's revelation here. You said that when you pause, it isn't permanent. Mm-hmm. And I think that some of the reason that I don't pause is because I've had some temporary pauses that that ended up being long-term pauses. Mm-hmm. So it's like trusting that if I stop and take a moment, I won't start back up.
Right.
I don't know if I'm by myself out there, if that hit anybody else the way that it did for me, but that is not a stop, and you don't have to fear.
What's funny?
Taking a breath, taking a pause. Mm-hmm.
One part that I left out of the sermon just because of time's sake was about Abraham's father, Terah. Mm-hmm. When you read in the book of Genesis, Terah initially got the call to take your family and move, and he stopped, and he never started back. So then the call came to Abram before his name was changed to Abraham. And Terah in Hebrew means to loiter. So we're not saying that your mind should be loitering, in other words, stuck in a place and you never move from there. We're saying you pause so you can re-energize, reboot, refuel, so you can go back and be about your purpose, your mission, your goals, your dreams. But you have to stop. I don't care what it is. Even the best plane in the world has to stop and refuel. The best car, I don't care how expensive your car is, if it's gas or it's electric. It has to refuel, or you have to plug it in if it's an electric car for it to do what it needs to do. Sometimes human beings think that they can just grind it all the way through. Now, I'm not saying that there are not times to grind, but here's what I'm present to. The more you've re-energized yourself spiritually, the more energy you have for that. Yeah. And when you try to grind on low fuel, only thing you end up doing is burning yourself out. And unfortunately, some people end up in the hospital, or they end up checking out because their soul doesn't know how to be in this experience without grinding. So they leave. But I don't know if we really want to get that deep. But
I mean, it's not even about leaving the earth. And sometimes it's just like you're what is it, talking loud but not saying anything. You're working so hard, but no productivity is happening because you're just moving on an empty tank. So you're busy, but you're not going anywhere. It's like you talk about the loop, right? You're in this loop where it feels like because I am thinking about something. So Mr. Overthinker in here, right? I identify with that. Overthinking feels like you're doing something, right? Because I'm thinking about this challenge so much and so hard, and it feels productive, but really what you're doing is expanding the problem, right? You're making it bigger, as opposed to maybe in the pause is, where's the solution in this? Where's the breakthrough in this? I'm just going to sit for that next step, as opposed to just frantically desperate, being desperate about looking for a solution. So we're building a case here for, looking at Lent as being an opportunity to really do this soul work and releasing these negative patterns, these negative thoughts that have kept us from our highest good. And so the sacred pause is, Rev said, is not a permanent pause, right? So we don't have to be afraid that we won't kick into gear again, but that it's necessary. Just like I got to pause to charge my phone up. I got devices plugged in all around me that go on low battery, and I can literally see them go to zero, and I know I can't use them anymore. But I don't know the battery in me sometimes. Like you got to learn that battery power in you. Like, when are you at the red, when it's at 10% and it's on red? Like, you need to charge immediately. If we could have that, like, you want to have a device that has your own battery barometer to say, take a pause and listen and charge up with God. Go ahead and do that. How about you?
One quick thing before we get to the next clip is, I think the other thing that the sacred pause stops is impulsive actions. When we're in a frantic state of mind, when we're angry, when we're stressed, when we're fearful, we tend to impulsively do things and impulsively say things. And sometimes the sacred pause allows you to say, okay, if I snap at this person at work right now, knowing I need this money for this mortgage and this car note and these children, it won't give me the best outcome. It might feel good in the moment. But is it for your highest good?
Yeah.
All right. You might want to say something to your significant other, but at that moment, it won't come out the way it needs to come. And some things you say you can't back up from. You might get forgiveness, but you might not get reconciliation. All right. So the sacred pause is also a way in which you catch yourself from playing yourself. Before you have, as Dave Chappelle used to say, a keeping it real moment. So by the time you keep it real and you do something stupid that's hard to get out of, because we all know, we learned this from our parents. It's easier to get into something than it is to get out of it. So the sacred pause makes you say, okay, before I impulsively go into this, what do I need to do? We've actually created, as a government, think about this, Rev Sheree. As a government, we've created a system to where people who are in high pressure cells, it's a time frame in which you can go back on a high pressure cell, a car, programs you buy. It's right. So it's 24 or 48 hours, wherever that is, you bought it. But that cool off period is, I'm bringing this car back. I felt as though I was a victim of high pressure cells. Why? Because the government even realized that if I can get a person in an emotional state, these salespeople can get us to buy stuff that might not necessarily be for our highest good. So even the federal government knows that we need the sacred pause.
Yes. Yeah. That pause in the conversation, though, that moment, if you are tapped in enough, right? Because it's always there. Wisdom is always present. It's always active. To say stop, not to say that, or for you to just be in the practice of, wait a minute, is this going to help or harm the situation? It might feel good to say what I want to say, but sometimes you said you run your mouth too much, and you weren't talking about in an argument, but you were talking about just giving yourself the space to take a pause, right? And you shared your own testimony about. I'm a big fan of of getting everybody on board with my transformation, like so that I can reduce the resistance. So I love when you shared that you knew you needed to work with something, that you were basically letting the people in your life know, I'm shutting it down. I'm shutting it down, and I'll be back with y'all whenever I'm gonna be back. And you gave them that information. But you said that just because you told them that you were taking a break didn't mean that you were telling them what you were doing, right? That you were working through something. It wasn't their business. And it also wasn't, that can set you up again to have more conversations about something that you say you need to work through. Right. If I trust God for this, if I'm going to go and be in the presence of God consciously, what do I need you to know about my challenge for? Like,
exactly. And next thing you know, you're having discussions, and sometimes people end up defending positions that they have unnecessarily because people don't understand what's going on in you. They don't understand the scope, and they don't understand the impact.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't mean that, and some people, even if they care, they can't do anything about it necessarily. So when I was saying, okay, I need to shut down for a week and just work on myself, I didn't need to say, hey, this is what I'm working through. I just needed to say, hey, I'm working through something. I want you all to know that unless it's something that I can handle, even if it's an emergency, let me be in my space to where I'm just me and God, working on my stuff. I had my books, so I was reading, I was praying, I was meditating, I was writing down my thoughts. And what I was doing was I was overhauling. Is a good word, overhauling the old for the new that God was presenting to me. But you have to stop long enough to actually allow that process to happen. People are moving too quickly, and they wonder why they don't ever have peace. They wonder why they're not in tune with divine inspiration, because they don't take enough time to stop. I'm real mindful about writing a sermon too early. Like, I'm like really, really serious about that. Have I sat down with this topic long enough for it to flow the way it needs to flow? If I'm frustrated about something that happened at work or with my family or with myself, is this the best time for me to write something that has to help somebody else? Because I have to be in a creative space, because the word has to become flesh and get typed on my laptop.
There's another statement that you said, I think, and you were talking, I don't know if it was Emmett Fox, but the heart of it was, you said, remember, wait a minute, I wrote this one down. Remember that you don't pause to give up. You pause to get stronger so you can go up.
That was me. That wasn't Emmett Fox.
That was you.
That was you. Where credit is due.
I got it. It was two quotes I was working with, and I like this one. Because there is a to say that I need to take a pause, take a moment, come apart, right, is me not saying that whatever it is I said yes to, I can't do. Right. It's that I got to go so that I can power up on it. I got to go power up so that I can deal with it from the right mindset.
Yes.
There was there was another thing. I'll see if I put it in my notes. There was something else you said.
If you don't have time for prayer and meditation, you have plenty of time for worry and trouble. It's something like that. That's not an exact thing. It's close. Yeah.
That was it right there. I didn't pull that one because I just for the sake of time, but I'm going to play this next clip because we're saying, what do you do in this pause, right? What is this pause? And we get that it's an opportunity to recharge, but we're talking about something that is not beyond you. How about that? Something that you may be even familiar with, but not using it. It's like having a tool that you never go pick up and use, but that's always at your disposal.
Yes.
Prayer changes you. The sacred pause changes you, not God. God is not influenced by your big words. What does it really mean? What is prayer? Prayer is a direct, personal, and often daily conversation with the divine. A spiritual lifeline designed to build a relationship with God, express gratitude, seek guidance, and find peace.
So with prayer being a way that we have this sacred pause, can you give us an example of what that could look like? Like you gave yours about studying and writing, but if I'm really busy, I got a lot going on in my life, I got kids, I got work, how do I have this pause and I recognize I'm in a mental loop pattern?
Okay, well, it's a couple of things. It depends on the situation. Obviously, there's no one size fits all. It depends on what people are trying to get out of a thing. Obviously, you get what you put into it. So let me get that out of the way. But like say, for instance, it might be, okay, I'm getting up 15 minutes earlier than spouse or children, so I can have my time to read my daily inspiration or daily word, my periodical, do my prayer reading, do maybe do some affirmations, sit still for a couple of minutes, see if I get any inner guidance before I go on about my day. It might be something as simple. This is something that I really used to do when Angel was a small child, like, first, second grade, and even before that, preschool. I had trained her when we got in the garage, before we pulled out, we had to say the prayer for protection. That's a sacred pause. The prayer for protection, for those who aren't familiar with it, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and so it is. Amen. It's versions of it where you make it me, us, you. It is the same prayer. That was me teaching my daughter to be able to take the sacred pause. A sacred pause is saying grace before you eat. A sacred pause. A sacred pause is before you go into that meeting for that presentation, you maybe step away, maybe even go in the bathroom, sit in the stall, take a breath, say your affirmations, go out, look in the mirror, get yourself where you need to be, and then go in and do it. A sacred pause might be when you need to do what I did, which was take some legitimate time to just pray, study, and meditate. A sacred pause might be, hey, I need to go somewhere and a hotel and look at some Caribbean water in Cancun, Jamaica, or whatever, and just allow my soul to reboot without having to be concerned about the things. It shows up in so many different ways. It might be when you're coming home from work, and before you go home from work, you pull up, you park or driveway or garage, and before you go in, you do a little prayer work, you read something, etc. So you don't take your day's drama into your home and expose your family to your attitudes that you didn't recalibrate because you were stressed at work. It's taking time to acknowledge the presence and power of God within you. It's recalibration. It's realignment.
That, and there's this is a plug, right? A very intentional plug, but exactly what he's talking about, all of these prayer practices we talk about in the daily LENT course that I'm working on every morning at 7 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern. I go live on Zoom, and basically we work with a lesson every day around building spiritual practice. Like essentially it is it's a dose of the truth, but at the end of it, you build a spiritual practice so that you have these tools in your arsenal. So I talk about a morning practice. I talk about how do you practice throughout the day. Morning is like setting the atmosphere of your day, like setting the tone, the energy you want to go out, aligning with God at the top of the day. Throughout the day, there are things you do to remember that you're in alignment, to remember the intention that you've been setting. And so those practices of taking a breath in the car, right? To remember who you are. And so holding on to an affirmation and breathing into it, looking in the mirror at yourself and speaking that word. Like those are ways that throughout the day, you are practicing the presence of God. You are having those sacred moments. And at the end of the day, it's a time for reflection. It's a time to get your good and to release.
You know, one of the best things about the sacred pause, to go back to what we were talking about at the beginning, is when you start to do the sacred pause and click on her link so you can get your Lenten lesson. The link is there. Okay.
QR coded.
QR code link. Yeah. QR code. If you're having resistance to taking sacred pauses, that's also teaching you something. Some people, when they take the sacred pause, I've had people tell me, well, I can't meditate. The moment I sit still, I go to sleep. And I said, okay, that means your body is not used to relaxing without you going to sleep. That's teaching you something. Okay. Can you be still and still be consciously aware? As some people say, well, my mind just starts going all over the place. Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's teaching you that you might need some type of practice that makes you focus more. Everybody just can't sit still and I'm gonna think nothing. No, stuff is going to come. You need some guardrails to guide you into this deeper level of spiritual awareness. But you got to take the time to do it.
And I'm big on guardrails. I'm big on taking the biggest step you can take. Like, so you want to step out your comfort zone a little bit. And so if meditating isn't your thing, if you're like, people get frustrated because they don't have these transcendent experiences when they meditate, because they can't focus, then I said, set a timer for 1 minute. Set a timer for 1 minute and just breathe. And if one of the apps I enjoy is the Calm app, and you don't even have to subscribe, but with the Calm app, there is like open meditation is what it's called. And I set it so that it gives a chime every minute. So every minute, a nice chime goes off, and it's like a babbling brook. You can choose whatever sound you want behind it. But when that chime goes off, it reminds me to focus again. So that was one of the ways I trained my focus, because that chime would get me off of my to-do list. It would get me off of, how long have I been sitting here? Whatever the chatter that would go on in my mind, the chime would remind me to breathe. It would remind me to center. And if I'm doing concentration work, it will remind me to concentrate on the idea that I'm focusing on. So just so that you are aware of some of the tools, like these are some of the tools that we share throughout Lent. And, in addition to that, sometimes you just need to hear the word. You need to hear like podcasts like this. You need to hear people talking about listening to sermons where the inspired word is being shared, because there's a word in there for you.
Absolutely.
And if I'm running that instead of, reality TV, then, maybe that'll help me, right? What will support you in doing the work that you're here to do? Because that's the other thing that I realize, that if I don't value what I bring to the table, if I don't value what I bring into expression, if I don't value that, then it won't be worth me saying, let me develop these practices to take a pause. Let me develop these prayer practices. You studied martial arts for years and years and years, but it was for an end. It's like you desired a level of mastery. Other than that, why would you hold a position for minutes on time that I'm sure was uncomfortable when you first started doing it? You know what I mean?
Oh my God. Yes.
There's an intention there. And it was important that you demonstrated that level of self-mastery. What you're doing, people out there, me talking to me too, it's important. God wouldn't give you a desire if it wasn't important for the harmony of the universe. We got to be able to recharge ourselves. We can't keep running on E, expecting and demanding more of ourselves when we don't have to do that. We don't have to live on E.
Yes. And living on E is often the path of least resistance, just like allowing your phone to go to zero. Okay, it's easier to let it go to zero than to get up and go find that charger and plug it in and plug it into your phone. So what ends up happening is discipline shows up as teaching you and putting yourself in a position to create the best version of you. Exercising isn't always fun.
Yeah.
All right. Going for those walks, doing that cardio, doing those isometric exercises, doing that weightlifting isn't always fun. Sometimes it makes your body sore. All right. But it's strengthening the body. What ends up happening with the mind is we allow the mind to get lazy, because the lazy mind is the path of least resistance. Yeah. Is it hard sometimes to contemplate spiritual thought, spiritual ideas and ideals? Yes. To be a better version of yourself, to watch your mouth and catch yourself before you say something you shouldn't say. or do something you're not supposed to do, yes, it can be tough. Yes, it can be difficult. Sometimes you're fighting against yourself because just like an addict, that behavior is being driven by some type of mental state.
That part.
And we don't realize it. Okay. Part of the path to your mastery is in your discipline. And it takes discipline to take the sacred pause. I've never seen anybody who has ever mastered anything without discipline.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. I used to have people ask me all the time, how do you read all these books? I stop and I read them. While you're watching TV, while you're watching movies, while you're on the phone, while you're texting, while you're on Facebook, while you're on Instagram, I'm sitting there contemplating ultimate reality. I'm not saying that's your job to do. That's my own uniqueness. I'm not going to say weirdness, but it's my own uniqueness.
Yeah, it's your unique unrepeatableness.
Right. So, so how can you recall all these books and the information in the books? Because it matters to me, just like you can recall the stuff that matters to you.
Right.
It doesn't make me special. It shows that my specialness shows up in my uniqueness. How is your specialness showing up in your uniqueness? But for that specialness to show up, guess what has to happen? Discipline. Yeah.
You've been shown, like, it's like, and everybody is disciplined at something. I know that if it's like, I have no discipline. Yes, you do. You're disciplined when what you think about the most, what you do easily is something that you become disciplined at. And so what you may not do, you may not value what you're disciplined in. It may not be adding any value to your life, what you're disciplined in, but you are disciplined. And when you notice the discipline in somebody else, don't know that you're noticing it for a reason. Like it's calling you higher. When you see someone else who is dedicated to their craft, when they're dedicated to something that's improving their life, that is, an expression of their talents and gifts. I know I used to judge, right? Like, I told this story of I didn't tell this story. One of my classmates in high school, you're just oblivious to yourself. But I was in honors. I'm in this class, and this class was not an honors class. And so I didn't take it very seriously. It's like I could ace this class in my sleep. And so there was some project we had to do. And one of my classmates, who was not in an honors program, had done a really good project, right? And I made some snarky comment about it because I was jealous of the work that he put into the project, right? It's like, I typically do a better job, but here he is taking this class seriously, and I'm here like it's a joke, but I'm jealous about it. And so sometimes we make these corny comments, we make these jabs, we punch these jabs at people who are being disciplined in the way they're interested, because we haven't seen and exhibited that same discipline within ourselves. And so I want to say, if you notice it, it's calling you higher. If you're noticing it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Growing up in South Side of Chicago, there were, and playing basketball in parks and things of that nature. One of the things that almost everybody knows is in any urban area where you see a lot of people playing basketball, there were the guys, and now we have the ladies, but I think it's more with the guys who were more than talented enough to make it to Division I basketball and even the NBA. I mean, I know a couple of guys that were, oh my God, great basketball players, but they didn't have the discipline. They wanted to gangbang. They wanted to hustle. They wanted to be in the streets. And that did not necessarily correspond with where their skill was. Right. So the skill took them to a certain place, but it stopped. Whereas there were people who went to college and got degrees. They might not have made the NBA, but they went to college and got 4 years for school for 4 years, played all 4 years, got degrees, etc., got careers because they had discipline, but that the more talented people didn't have. And somebody might be, excuse the term, dog walking you right now, not because of their talent, but because of their discipline.
Yeah. Discipline will beat talent. If you listen, I think it's Will Smith who gives a really good talk on that. If you want to Google that, where he talks about talent and discipline. I'm gonna play this last one before we wrap out of here, because I want to talk about first of all, You're using one of my favorite metaphors. So I'm gonna play it first. I'm gonna play this first.
Prayer is how you activate the Christ power in you. When you pray, you tap into the presence of God in yourself to express spiritual power, wisdom, understanding, and abundance in your circumstances. You might be stuck in life, even in deep trouble, because like the Wonder Twins, you didn't activate your power.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Wonder Twin powers activate. I love it. I talk about our 12 powers and what two look like activated together. But the fact that you are sharing with us, I just want to just gosh, it's such a powerful mindset that we don't have to wait for things to happen. I think that can be a loop that we're in, is that I'll wait until things get better or things get easier, and then, as opposed to, no, you're the one to activate the understanding. You're the one to activate the wisdom. Like, it's like you're the one to press the button in you that says go. But yeah, the Wonder Twin powers are mind you, I wasn't even into I wasn't into those type of cartoons. Those are boy cartoons, but I know Wonder Twin powers.
Trust me, people have already reached out to me about the Wonder Twins powers activate. One of our members was like, I was trying to explain it to my husband. He's like, how did he put that into a sermon?
No, I use it all the time, but here's what I learned. Okay, you guys got to go back and watch. This is the lesson sermon from March 15th. But I didn't realize that each of the twins could transform certain things, that one went to animals and one did elements or something like that.
Water, yeah.
Water, right? Yeah. Didn't realize that they had a lane that they were in with their powers, but I learned something new in the lesson sermon.
Yeah.
A cartoon aficionado.
One thing about it was, I'm a cartoon guy, so that's always been the case. Even now I still watch the anime stuff. So because here's the thing. One of the things that I've learned from pop culture, whether it's movies, anime, which is Japanese animation, American cartoons, etc., is when people really get serious about getting something done, you normally get a training montage. I used to love Rocky movies for the montage. Him training, running on the beach, doing whatever. He was preparing for what it was he needed to do. All right. In the old Kung Fu movies, they go off to the Shaolin Temple or go meet with some monk in the mountain, and they're learning some special Kung Fu style, et cetera, et cetera. They were training for what they needed to do. When you take your sacred pause, you are training your mind to get in contact with the spirit within you. So you have the power so you have the ability to handle what's in front of you.
Yeah.
All right. It's hard to beat, Clubber Lang in Rocky 3. That's when Rocky had to fight Mr. T. He was Clubber Lang with I Pity the Fool. Young me seeing Clubber Lang, I thought Mr. T was like 8'9". I found out he was like a short man. But in Rocky 3, he was menacing. And I was like, oh my God. You just don't stroll up to Clubber Lang. You have to be prepared for Clubber Lang.
That's all right.
Okay. Sometimes people are trying to deal with serious illnesses, financial issues, career issues, family issues, etc., without any level of spiritual preparation. And then we all say that all this stuff doesn't work. When Clubber Lang hits us with the blindside hit and we get knocked down, I'm saying to you, you take the sacred pause, which is your prayer time, your meditation time, and your spirit studying of spiritual principle, so you can recalibrate, realign, and get stronger, so you can grow in spiritual consciousness, so you can be equipped, and that's the word, equipped to handle the daily practical life stuff that shows up. And some of the things that show up, you won't see coming. But that doesn't mean you won't be prepared.
Right.
But you got to take the time.
That is a powerful message, I think, to leave on. I'm and definitely encourage. And I'm thinking about when things are tough, that's typically when we come off of our practices. When people get really busy, they stop working out. When people get really busy or they're going through a lot, then you stop those things that felt like luxuries, which is, I don't have time to sit and meditate, or I don't have time to sit and journal. And those are the very practices that build you so that you can handle those things that come your way. You don't get sucker punched.
Absolutely.
Or you can rebound from a sucker punch. And that happens in your life. Thank you for a powerful word. We are coming to the bottom of our time, but I do want to let you know that if you would like more of the truth that transforms, that comes from the hardcore metaphysician, there's a podcast that you can tap into called Truth Transforms. And you can find it on any of the major podcasts. It's syndicated on all the podcast platforms. What are you focused on right now? Are you in a series for Truth Transforms?
No, I'm not in the series. I've been kind of doing some one-offs. Actually, I haven't done one in a couple of weeks. I do need to get something done.
Well, there's a good 5,000 episodes for you guys to choose from.
It's about 550 episodes to choose from right now. But one of the ways, if you're trying to find your sacred pause, one of the ones that I would highly recommend is, I did one on the complaint-free world, which was like 4 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a series of about 11 episodes, I think 11 or 12 episodes on the eye of the storm, capital I of the storm. Those would be 2 really good ones to help find your peace. I also did one with Reverend Jackie on radical forgiveness and radical self-forgiveness. That was earlier this year. So these are things for you to help you find your sacred pause. You have to stop and take time. And if you're working with through prosperity, Reverend McGee and I did one recently where we did how to pray for prosperity. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to take your sacred pause because, we're seeing things happening over in the Middle East is causing gas prices, which eventually will affect groceries. It'll affect everything else because that stuff has to be shipped on plane, on boat, in car, in trucks. So when the oil prices rise, everything else rises. So you have to take some sacred pauses to make sure that you stay in tune and you remind yourself, God is the source of my supply. Yes. And there's always a way for me to be provided. Let me stay in tune with that provision. So you'll know where to go, what to do, what not to do, who to call, or whatever that might be. Stay in tune. When you're in your sacred pause, you're in your power.
That's right. That's right. Anytime there is a recession, there's somebody who's making a great fortune, right?
Absolutely.
So we can tap into. There's always God's abundance is always available. Thank you.
My prosperity seminar.
Talk about the prosperity seminar.
March 28th. I'm doing prosperity, the fundamentals of new thought, a webinar with the Reverend Alberta Ware, who's a staff minister at Christ Universal Temple. It'll be on YouTube and Facebook from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. March 28th, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Central Time. If you can't watch it live, it'll be available later on YouTube as well. So you can just click and watch it when you want to watch it. But I just want you all to be present too. If you want to work with, how do I stop and study? Because part of being the sacred pause is your study work. Make sure that you're studying spiritual principles, because just like garbage in, garbage out, truth in, truth out.
And that's March 28th at 12 p.m. Central.
Yes. And I also have a sacred pause seminar I'm calling Cultivate Your Oneness on April 11th from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. in person and online. With myself, I'm doing meditations and visualizations. I remember Misha is going to be doing sound bath, and another member, Professor Woking Jackson, is going to be teaching Tai Chi. So we're teaching people how to do the mind stuff, the body stuff, and the vibrational stuff with the sound bath to cultivate their oneness.
That is awesome. That's awesome. So you can stay tapped into this. Remember, all of this is an extension of Christ Universal Temple based in Chicago, Illinois. So this is our way to touch and to stay connected no matter where we are in the world. That's what the CUT Collective is all about. Yes. So I want to thank you for what you shared today. I want to thank you all for tapping in, for listening, whenever you're listening and however you're listening. Thank you so much for being present and available. Remember that I am running a Lenten experience that is happening each and every day at in the mornings that you can, and this is absolutely free this year. There is no registration fee. So you can go and register at shereespeaks.com. /LENT 2026. Their link is there. And I encourage you to do that. We still have time before Easter where you can just get a charge in there. The recordings are all there. You can have this 40-day experience anytime. And then at Christ Universal Temple, there are also the noonday inspirations that are happening. We are just tapped in, giving you opportunities to feed your mind with the truth, to immerse yourself in the truth. And we're grateful to be able to do that, to share and support you in your spiritual growth. We'll be back with the Rewind next week. We're rewinding on the lesson sermon. It'll be for March, whatever
22nd.
Sunday is.
March
Is it March 20? March 22nd. March 22nd, and Reverend Derek B. Wells will be given the lesson sermon. So looking forward to seeing you then. God bless you. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll be back next week with the Rewind. God bless. God bless. God bless.